You remember when they said your 20s are going to be the decade of your life? It's the decade that you have so much opportunity, you meet new people, you have new experiences. This is the one that's going to set you up for the rest of your life. It's like a runway to who you're going to become 20, 30 years from now. Well, I believed him. I went all in. I said, okay, sign me up. What do I need to do to make it happen? I was pumped. I thought, I'm going to be starting my adult life. I'm going to be gaining new experience in my career. I'm going to be achieving all of my long-term goals in this one short decade. I had this vision of it all being planned out. Then I turned 30. And life doesn't look anything like I thought it was going to. I thought I'd be making millions of dollars in residual income, and I'd be living on this beach house where I'd be doing whatever I wanted to be doing, and that's just not how my life looks right now. And I can't help but to think, I wasted my 20s. Now, maybe you're watching this video because you feel the same way. You feel like you wasted some time. So maybe you're in your 20s, your 30s, or maybe you're in your 40s, 50s, or 60s. And I'm here to share a few stories that will maybe help you reframe that thought. Maybe it'll help you not think that you wasted some time. These concepts that I'm going to give to you, I hope that you can apply these into your life right now and maybe make you feel a little bit more equipped to attack life and whatever you're going through. So without further ado, let's just jump right in. One of the first things that I learned upon exiting my 20s is that your ego will drive you, but it will also distract you. You know, there were a lot of decisions in my 20s that were entirely ego driven. And before I explain why, I think a lot of 20-year-olds go through this because you really don't know what you don't know. So you think you're a lot smarter than you are, or you think you're more equipped than you are, and I think that's normal until you just get slapped in the face. Now, don't get me wrong, the ego can be a very useful tool, but when I explain this, you can see that it kind of messed some things up for me in the future. When I look back, I can really remember when this all started, when I started to use ego to make decisions. And it was when I decided to go to college. I didn't really know what I'd wanted to do. People had asked me plenty of times on the way preparing for college, they would say, what do you want to be? What do you want to study? And I didn't really know. I didn't have the answer. I just knew that, well, I really love playing sports. I want to keep playing sports. Well, sports isn't exactly a major, so I picked finance. And the reason why I picked finance was, because it came with some things that I had associated it with. I associated it with money and status, and probably the most important one, it looked like I had it all together. It looked like I knew what I was doing. It didn't hurt that other people told me, hey, you're pretty good at numbers and you seem like you're naturally good at some of these business concepts. Why don't you just go into finance? So I did. But in the back of my mind, I always knew this wasn't truly what I wanted. But I developed this habit of, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to attack it and I'm going to give it everything I got. So that's what I did. I pursued it and I pursued it hard. And then later on, I noticed that I had started to create a pattern of making these decisions based on some idea like status or money or what it made me look like. And that started to trickle into other decisions later on that would result in damaging consequences. It led me to making a decision to take this job right out of college that I knew I didn't like at all and I wasn't going to like it. I had graduated college that Saturday and I started work that Monday. I was just ready to look like I had it all together and make some money and, be somebody. And, looking back, I thought I should have probably taken some time and just enjoyed the moment for a little bit. But again, ego. So I went straight into it. Of course, as you would expect, I went through that job, and after about a year, continuing to hate my life and hated showing up to the place that I had to be at every day at 8 a.m., I decided to make a decision. And I said, I don't care if I'm going to be broke the rest of my life. I cannot do this. I cannot continue being this fake person doing this job that I absolutely despise. I've got to make a change. Something has to be different. So after sitting on this decision of what is my life even going to look like 20 or 30 years from now if I stay in this job, I decided I'm just going to pursue something that I actually enjoy with the hopes that maybe my desire and my hard work ethic, that will come into play because I'll actually be interested in it and I'll actually want to be better. So that's when I started to see some actual positive changes in my life in terms of my career. I felt this new sense of confidence that I don't have to take a crappy job because it looks cool on paper, or maybe it lets people know that, hey, I know what I'm doing. Instead, all you're doing is just hiding your emotions because you don't want people to see that you screwed up. At least that's how I was. Now, I don't want you to think it was so easy making this decision of, oh, I'm just going to follow exactly what I want to do for the rest of my life. Throughout my 20s, it wasn't always that easy. I plenty of times encountered this scenario where there would be another opportunity placed in front of me and I'd think, the money looks good, the status looks good, looks like I know what I'm doing. I had to constantly rein in my choices and decide, am I actually doing this because I want to do it and I can see long-term potential out of it? Or am I falling back into my old habits of just wanting to have this status? It actually took till I was about 29 or 30 where I just really put my foot down and made this concrete decision of, man, I made it a decade basically doing what I wanted to do for the most part, and I'm okay. I survived it. So from that moment on, that's when it really began to solidify that if I don't see long-term potential in an opportunity, I don't even entertain it. Now, the second thing that I learned in my 20s was learning to actually learn. Now, this is a really probably strange concept to hear, like learn to actually learn. What do you mean by that? Well, when you're going into your teens and into your 20s, you're taught how to learn a specific way. Just think of the school system, at least in the United States. You're expected to go to class or go to school, and a teacher will guide you through the subject. They give you homework and they give you assignments and they guide you through that, and you're expected to take the material home, learn it, and come back prepared and like you know the material. It's a very systematic process. You check these boxes and you graduate. Well, in the real world, that's not how it is at all. There are no more guides at this point. You don't have someone that is instructing you to study this topic, to master this particular subject, and you're good to go. It's not like that at all. You have to learn how to learn, and the thing about it is there's so many different techniques that people use and strategies that you can apply that may work better for you. One of the most frustrating experiences that I encountered throughout my 20s was when I decided to sort of transition career paths and start to learn a different realm. So I had spent, the greater part of my career in the fitness world, and I decided I think I want to learn more of the marketing world and be educated on that. So I just had more options. Now I had learned a couple things here and there, but nothing to the magnitude that I needed to learn to actually make any real money. So I had to learn the language. I had to learn what people were speaking in this marketing world to better facilitate my ability to learn and to network with these people. I had to learn what marketing funnels were and how they worked and what they did. And then I had to learn marketing metrics and how they're tracked, what they mean, and how you can use them. But the main point is I had to become the student as well as the teacher in order to find the right resources, study them, learn them, and then be able to apply them. There was not really anyone telling me, oh, study this and you'll learn much quicker. You're not wasting your time. There were a lot of things that I'd read and products that I'd purchased that were just a waste of time. I would have been better off spending my money on anything else. But that's the real difference when you're going into your teens and 20s, that you require a little bit of a learning curve on how to actually learn. You're conditioned to be led and guided. And when you're in your 20s, that's not available. So I'll give you a little helpful advice, and it's really more of a cheat code, but it's a way for you to expedite the process of achieving your goal by learning a little bit quicker. So if you have this goal set out in front of you and you are kind of struggling to accumulate all the knowledge and you're finding yourself hitting these experiences and you're just hitting a wall, well, start to look at people that have actually done what you're trying to do. Look at people that are further ahead than you in life and see what they've done to achieve that goal. Look at their approaches, their ideas, their thought process to get there. And what you'll find out is if you take some of those ideas and approaches and you apply them to your own life, you're going to figure out what works for you and then what doesn't. And then you'll start to formulate your own approach. And that's really one of the best ways to learn and to learn quicker, is to go through these experiences and approaches and fail. Like, learn what works and learn what doesn't work. This is something that I'm going to use well into the later years of my lifetime because it's a proven system. You just look at what those have done before you and take their ideas, tweak them, and maybe you'll come out with something better. That's really the name of the game, is, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Now, the third thing that I learned in my 20s is that the pain of regret hurts way more than the failure of a pursuit. So this idea itself is a little bit different because it's something that I had become aware about in the early days of my life, and it really began to manifest into my 20s. So you've always heard people say, you got to take chances, you got to take risks. You don't want to end up in a position where you regret not chasing after whatever it was that set you on fire. So I took that same idea and applied it to my life in college. I'd mentioned earlier in the video that I didn't really know what I wanted to do or study in college. I just knew that I wanted to play sports. So, my life in college consisted of a very regimented schedule with basically no social life. I'd get up and go to football practice, and then I'd go to class and go to practice again and stay up late and study. In between studying, I'd be stretching. So my life consisted of being the best possible student athlete I could be. Now, I didn't attend parties, I didn't go get drunk on the weekends, and I didn't really have much of a social life. It just didn't appeal to me because I wanted to achieve a particular goal. But looking back, there's a ton of opportunities that I missed out on. I didn't make a lot of real good friends in college. And I definitely didn't have a lot of cool experiences like a lot of people do. But I'd achieved the goal that I wanted to achieve as far as playing sports. But the thing is, after college, I took that same approach to life and used it in my career. After I'd decided that I was going to quit that job and pursue exactly what I wanted to pursue, I went all in. I completely removed myself from any type of social life. And I just hammered down and approached my goal like it was all or nothing. I did this until probably 25 or 26. So you can again see that, I missed out on meeting a lot of people and building a lot of relationships along the way. But the pursuit that I was always after was doing something that I wanted to do and competing on one of the highest levels of the sport that I was competing in at that time in my adult life. I knew that if I just settled and decided to not pursue my goals and what I really wanted to do, that would hurt way more than failing in that pursuit. I can't even imagine what the pain of regret would feel like. If you have a goal or something that you've been wanting to pursue, and give it a shot. If there's this small bit of intuition that I should pursue this, you owe it to yourself to give it a try. This time, this moment in time, it's not always going to be there. So when you do have the opportunity to try something, go all in. The stories, the experience, the knowledge that you're going to gain from it, you can use those things way further down the line into your lifetime. Now, the fourth thing that I learned in my 20s is to have patience in the compound effect. I'll tell you this, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate. I was so impatient in my 20s. I wanted things now, and I wanted to achieve these lofty goals instantly. And I knew that you had to work hard and all that stuff, but it just couldn't happen fast enough for me. And looking back, and that sucks to say, because a lot of the enjoyment of pursuing something is in the journey. It's in the actual process. In Darren Hardy's book, The Compound Effect, he explains that this is the idea that small, insignificant actions over the course of time lead to huge results in the long run. So all that means is by doing one thing right, day after day after day, eventually that's going to lead into some huge results. It all comes down to seeing these short-term implications of what you're doing on a daily basis and how they play out in the long run of your life. I bring this up because it's obvious. Our 20s are a very formative time in our life. It's where we start to develop these habits that we start to implement in our daily life as an adult. In your 20s, you start to have this enormous amount of free time that you didn't have in your teens. You can really do whatever you want with your time. So that leads many people to go on different paths. Maybe they spend their free time filled with social hours and going to parties, drinking alcohol, eating like garbage, you know the drill. Whereas some people might start to exercise regularly. They might start to find the importance of eating well, or maybe they start to put an emphasis on doing the small things right, like showing up on time and doing what you say you're going to do. I'll say that I fell somewhere in the middle. Sometimes I was very on in my self-improvement and I was doing the things that I needed to be doing, and then sometimes I didn't. I really didn't prioritize eating healthy, not working out every day like I should have been, and probably drinking too much. But you can see that it's very obvious why when people reach their 30s, they become depressed, they have a lack of direction, and they have this crisis of, what am I doing with my life? Well, it's because they didn't spend the time delaying gratification on the front end, working on themselves, going through some self-improvement. They focused on short-term satisfaction, and we all know that doesn't last. The good thing about this is that if you didn't do this in your 20s, that's okay. We can always change. We have that ability to make a choice. A very helpful thing that I learned in this time of my 20s is to set a physical goal. When I say physical goal, I mean something like with your physical body. That can be things like building muscle or losing a few pounds, or maybe it's running a race, or maybe you're just going to join an entirely new sport like mixed martial arts and just see what you can do. The reason why I like setting a physical goal is because that momentum is so transferable to other areas of your life. You start to gain some confidence that your body is changing and you're putting in the work. And you can take that confidence and momentum and put it into your career, or putting into relationships that you have, and approaching people with a positive attitude. It's something that a lot of people miss because they're just not used to it. Something that I learned throughout this decade of my 20s is that we all inherently put this pressure on ourselves. We put this pressure on ourselves to be something at a certain age or milestone. What am I going to be when I'm 30 or 40 or 50 or 60? We have this goal in our mind or this expectation, and it's a lot of unnecessary pressure. And like I mentioned, a lot of people say that your 20s, it's the most important decade. It's the one that you really build the person that you're going to become later on. And I'd have to agree with that in some aspects, but like I also mentioned, we have the ability to change. We have the ability to change our life at this moment and become something better, something that we've always wanted to be. Your relationship, your career, your lifestyle, it doesn't matter. All you need is hope and a dream, an aspiration, and you can really change your current scenario. And after working through a lot of things in my 20s that I thought I'd regret, and some of them I did regret for a while, now I'm hitting this new stride into my 30s. I can't say that my 20s were a complete waste of time. I've got new goals, a new direction, but most importantly, I've got this foundation of experience and knowledge that I can use for the rest of my life. Did I achieve all my goals? No, definitely not. And, there were some goals that I set and I surpassed, but now I'm more equipped. I'm a little bit smarter, a little bit wiser, but just as hungry.